Hi folks, my name is Teacher Joko, and I'm here to do some volunteer IELTS feedback for candidates who want to share their writing. Of course, you can ask about any aspect of the IELTS test here at the IELTS Tips and Tricks group. And you might not have seen me before, or maybe point being is that there's no denying it. This group is declining in its popularity, I guess is the right word, in its use, in its in the number of candidates who feel safe or the need to share their writing specifically publicly for qualified teachers to give them feedback on at no cost. Well, it doesn't make any sense. As teachers, all of us have other jobs, and not having work to do when we go home in the form of being volunteers at this group, well, it's not something you're going to complain about too much, but you know what? I did enjoy doing what I did in 2018, 19, 20, 21, in that time when we were still the most active and influential group. All right, so why has this happened? Well, if you don't have to pay a fee, it's a human tendency to take for granted that which is totally free. Yeah, if it doesn't cost anything, it's not going to be considered valuable. This is, like I said, a human tendency, as pointed out by Pankaj, who was one student who who was a founding member of the 6.5 club, where they get a 9 in reading and a 9 listening, 7 in speaking, and 6.5 in writing. That's what I at least tried to specialize in, which is kind of an easy thing to do. But anyway, we used to have a lot of fun back then. Like, for example, I'm a musician, and
it's week 3,
this
89,
essay,
like and I'm collaborating with a guy from Delhi named Pankaj. He wrote the essay, and it sounded like this song needed a kind of an Elvis too. So I'm IELTS Elvis. IELTS this. Well, so much would be lost if it were totally free. If there were no cost to university, but that ain't true.
The essay topic was, should universities be free?
Baby, without a doubt, at some college, students, they drop out. There'd be such wastage, this fact ain't true. Until it's proved.
Ain't true until it's proved.
Say you disagree, but to what extent you don't say clearly.
Okay, give me advice in the form of song. So here was the last essay that was posted in this group that did not get a response. It is an advantages and disadvantages essay. It wasn't ever given from September 6th, 2024. So let's analyze it, and I'm going to do one of the things I used to do a lot of. Really, let's break down this question to start and talk about how you, as an IELTS candidate, should address the question in your prep and in your thinking and in your planning. Okay, so let's look at this question. It is important for people to take risks, both in their professional lives and personal life. Okay, do the advantages. Now, what was not here in this screenshot from the group was this part here. Remember, folks, this verbiage is in the instructions in every task 2, general training or academic. Give reasons for your answers and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge or experience. So these instructions are just as important as any instructions that you have up here. But since they're on every test in the group, they tend to just be ignored. This candidate does a good job of doing this, but don't forget, it's always there, always. One I want you to think about here is how to break up this question into its parts. Okay, first sentence. It is important for people to take risks. Do you think this? So like here, Do you think the advantages of taking risks outweigh the disadvantages? That's already kind of answered by the premise. It is important. It is important for people to take risks. Well, if it is important for people to take risks, therefore it is advantageous. It's not important for people to do bad things or disadvantageous things. So if this is true, then this must also be true. Okay, so how many parts are there to this question? Whoops. Go back. 2, 3, or 4? And this is important because in the band descriptors, one of the criteria is, does the writer address all parts of the question? So you need to think about how many there are. Choose your answer. Is it 2, 3, or 4? The answer is yes. Depends on how you look at it, really, and what you choose to do in your approach to answering it. Okay? I think probably 3 is the best way to answer it, is you need to break up professional and personal lives. That's what I would do anyway. Okay, but that first sentence is definitely not part of the question. It is important. Is it important or not? Now, the first statement in any kind of discursive essay question is almost always the premise. Okay? Now, the premise, it's not the location, that's the premises. But the premise, it's not up for discussion. It's taken as fact. Now, you could discuss it, sure, but you'd be wasting your time. You wouldn't really be hurting yourself in that, but you wouldn't be addressing the question all in any time you said, here's why it is important, or if you're crazy, you say it's not important. Save that for the outweigh part, because that is basically the same argument. Now, to summarize, to really emphasize this point, not that it's a real big problem, it's time for a joke. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Okay, whoops, I forgot to put the audio in here. Can I take a pause? Yeah. Wow, it's tied. Oh my God. Oh, hey, we're back. Is the thing finished uploading yet? Okay, yeah, great. All right, so back to the joke. The joke. Rid of that. 29.6. Okay, as I was saying. So, a lot has changed in the years since this was to happen in place. For example, nowadays most people are using their mobile devices to access all aspects of the internet, so I'm doing my review in this cell phone friendly. This joke comes to us from the Jewish tradition. I am not Jewish. It's an old story. I read it in a book a long time ago. A young man returns to his village after spending time at the university, and he is confused and upset and having a crisis of meaning. So he goes to see his rabbi. And the rabbi asks him, what is the matter? And very much distraught, the young man tells the rabbi, Rabbi, I have lost my faith. I have been to the university, and I have learned from the men of science that anything can be argued, that there are no positions, there are no truths that can't be debated. And the rabbi says, oh, really now? Could you, for example, argue that you have, let's say, no nose? And without even a pause, the young man says, well, certainly. First of all, on the one hand, and the rabbi stops him and punches him square on the nose. The young man doubles over in pain and grabs and goes, whoa, whoa. And the rabbi says, what hurts? What hurts? Okay, the point of the joke is, makes you think for a moment. And so is it, yes, critical thinking, which we should all develop, allows us to question anything. But it can go too far. So don't argue that you have no nose, you're going to get punched. Regardless of how you are going to approach the question, you should do some planning beforehand and jot some notes down about the key ideas that you want to present. Don't worry if you put down a bunch of stuff that you don't use. That's the point of brainstorming, is just get your ideas on paper and cross out the ones that are not supportable or are outlandish or in some ways that you don't use. Make the points that you can fully support and give an extended, nuanced reply to. So that means don't try to discuss too many points. Epitome of that is air travel. There are lots of advantages to air travel as opposed to driving someplace, again, across the country. I mean, God, length of time and the loss of productivity and the wear and tear on your car. Whereas with air travel, you can just boom, boom. But it's just one advantage. But that one advantage outweighs all the disadvantages of air travel, namely the cost. Wait. No. The one disadvantage, the cost, outweighs the advantages unless you can afford it. All right. So I've got professional and personal, and that's the way I would do it. Okay. In professional, the advantages include it gets you noticed, entrepreneurship. Where's my... Oh, shit. Huh? Oh, yeah. In personal, confidence. Greater confidence gets you more charisma. And what do they mean by professional and personal? Personal is, your relationships with your family and potential family and your social circle. Okay? Disadvantages. Corporate culture often does not encourage taking risks. And the risks you take, what you can lose from them in your personal life by, say, leaving your wife at age 44, like someone I know did. Okay, so anyway, our candidate, they did a pretty good job. Now, I want to point out my code up here at the top. You know what those letters mean? Those are the abbreviations for the band, the criteria on which the bands are given. All right? So, and I've color-coded these notes based on which band criteria is at question. I underline things when I like them. So this person does a very good job of using and showing they're able to use different parts of speech, word families, take risks, risk-taking. I know it sounds simple, but that's an important skill to have. Is often considered essential in both personal and professional lives, as the question does not address why it is important. We have to deduce that. But I don't think it's essential because it brings both benefits and drawbacks. That'd be kind of silly. I think you could say that it's essential or important because of the advantages. It's not important because of the disadvantages. However, I firmly believe the positives of facing challenges often outweigh the negatives. Now, interesting. It is important to use a certain amount of softening language. What are we calling it? Hedging. Okay? It's and often, not always. But what's interesting here is that for the side that the writer agrees with, they use hedging. And the side they don't agree with, they don't. Okay. On the one hand, on the positive side, that's the second time we've seen the word positive. Now, one of the most annoying aspects, I'm paraphrasing Cindy? No, it's been so long I've forgotten my colleagues' names. The award for the most annoying aspect of English grammar goes to articles. Yes, the challenges. We don't know what challenges we're talking about. Facing challenges, it says in the first paragraph. But a paragraph break kind of resets that. Individual who embraces the challenges of personal and professional, we're not dividing that. We don't gain opportunities. So there's a bit of a collocation there. Challenges, individuals. You've already used those two words in the first half of the sentence, in the sentence previous. Gain, there's gain again. Now, I'm not one of these, I'm not fanatic about not repeating words ever, but in consecutive sentences, or even in the same paragraph, is not a good way to impress the examiner in your lexical resources. That's why it's yellow. Individual, and once here's the hedging. Individuals tend to gain immense confidence. Well, they usually gain some, or they always gain some. Some of them gain immense. It's just a weird combination of hedging and extremes. by navigating the challenges. There's challenges for a third time in the paragraph in certain ways. What ways? But we don't find out. Instead, you go to the next point. In addition to this, okay, in the risk-taking journey, nice figurative language there. In is not the proper, I would say during, under. Encountering failures can enhance resilience and perseverance. What is the difference between resilience and perseverance? In a person is not necessary. Monkeys don't experience failures. The CEO, missing an article there, of Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, once stated in his interview, in an interview, that it is often difficult. And once again, we have the hedging. I think Zuckerberg would have just said, oh, it's difficult to start a new journey at work. Or you're lumping personal and professional lives together, and that's not addressing all parts of the task. However, taking risks, I'm saying you, this person's probably long gone. However, taking risks always teaches valuable lessons in the end. Does it? Can we have an example of that? Oh no, you're just quoting Zuckerberg. Now, when does that quote end? Therefore, is this still Zuckerberg talking? Youth should not be afraid of stepping out of their comfort zones and exploring the world. Oh, that's a nice little bit of less common vocabulary there at the end. I like it. All right, paragraph 3, second body paragraph. On the negative side, could have saw that coming. Note, up to this point, we have not seen the word advantage or disadvantage. On the negative side, risks cause failure, and it said, see, here there is no hedging. It just risks cause. They do it 100% of the time in lives. Encountering a multitude of failures in certain, now once again, this is coherence and cohesion, because certain, which was used earlier, is a type of, not a pronoun, but what would you call it? A pro-adverb? We're going to find out what ways, but it doesn't, in what ways? In certain projects. It's a pro-adjective. In certain projects, now, this is very good grammar here. He remembered encountering a multitude leads to, because there's a two plurals in between there that most English learners would have said lead, because the plurals lend them and tend them. But no, good job. And once again, but not sometimes or often, but just does in lives. For instance, okay, great, we got another example. When people experience failures after investing a substantial, what about a little bit of money? Oh, in their startup, more than just, if it's their startup, it's more than just money. It's their lives. They give up their struggles. You're not presenting the picture of what happens in this example. It's more like a series of business English words strung together, almost like an AI. It's edging on that. Is that what's causing the end of the submitted essay? Is that everybody's using AI? I don't know. Therefore, they often miss out on diverse opportunities, which may turn out, no, that's not the correct word there, lucrative business opportunities in the long run. Well, no, there's too many mistakes for it to be AI. In conclusion, while people encounter several drawbacks while taking risks, there's drawbacks. Those are more than just drawbacks. Those are, the drawback is an unfortunate incident. These are, deal breakers. Real reasons not to do it. Numerous opportunities to discover a new world may not be overshadowed. What? Once again, we got hedging going on, and it's just unclear. Therefore, I contend, that the advantages, there's the word advantages, of taking risks outweigh the disadvantages. Okay. I hope it wasn't AI assisted, and you won't have that help in the room when you're writing. Some lessons to be learned here. Hedge with the side you disagree with, and be strong with the side you agree with, because it's not, I noticed that. Don't use the same words over and over in the same paragraph. It's certainly not in consecutive sentences. You can use the same word once in every paragraph. Try to limit it to that. Analyze the question. This question did not separate personal and professional lives, and the question clearly begged for that. I would say so. So by not addressing all parts of the question, go to this and say, well, we know that this question, if it might have been paraphrased incorrectly, is actually a academic question because it uses the outweigh language. If you don't know these, I would start reading them. I had a business idea myself. I wanted to get a printer to turn this into a big poster. And if I was an IELTS candidate, even an IELTS teacher, I'd want that on my wall because I'm looking at it all the time. Task achievement. Is this task 1? Okay. Some may be more fully covered than others. Yeah, I didn't get anything about personal lives. So that's a 6. Paragraphing is, but everything else is pretty good. There was occasional confusion in the referencing. So 7, I think. There is inappropriacies in the lexical resources. Does it rise to an 8? No, it doesn't. Occasional 7 or 8, somewhere in there. And then grammar is almost no mistakes at all. Very good. Say an 8. So 6, 7, 7, 8. That's a 7, my friend. Again, no guarantees. This is just my opinion. So wow, 20 minutes, just like the old days. Fun. Submit your essays so that we can tear them apart and make you feel good and bad, but we'll improve your score. I talk about what's changed. There's one thing that hasn't changed. Badger. Okay. Peace on the subcontinent.